The trade station floated in the dark space, like a shining island between the stars. It was a place where hundreds of alien races came to meet, trade, and tell stories. Bright lights and moving walkways filled every level. The air smelled of strange spices and oil from the many machines that kept the station alive. Captain Rin stood at the main security checkpoint, her tall frame covered in silver armor that gleamed under the overhead lights. Her eyes moved over the crowd of arriving travelers. She had trained for many cycles to notice small signs of danger, a twitch in the hand, a strange way of walking, or a hidden object under clothes. Her gaze stopped when she saw him, a human, male, walking with slow, easy steps, his skin a warm brown, his hair short and dark, his face calm as if he had nothing to fear. Yet there was something that made her tense. On his lower body, just under the belt line of his clothing, there was a bulge, not large enough to look like a big weapon, but shaped in a way that made her instincts ring with alarm. She had read the human files before. They were strong, clever, and sometimes very dangerous. The records showed that they had fought wars with alien weapons they built themselves. They also had a habit of hiding small deadly tools where no one would look. Her right hand moved to her sidearm as she stepped forward. Her voice was calm but firm as she called out to him, "Human, stop and face me." The noise of the checkpoint slowed as travelers turned to see what was happening. Marcus, the human, paused and looked at her, his eyes showing surprise. He raised his hands slightly. "Is there a problem, officer?" he asked, his voice even, but Rin could see the way his muscles tightened under his jacket. "There is a problem," Rin said, pointing to the lower part of his clothing. "What are you hiding there?" Marcus's face changed. A flicker of confusion, then embarrassment. His eyes darted left and right as if to see who was watching. More aliens were gathering, some tall and scaled, others small and covered in fur. They whispered in their own tongues, their eyes fixed on the strange standoff. "It's not a weapon," Marcus said slowly, but the way he said it made Rin think he was trying to cover the truth. "Empty your pockets and remove the object," Rin ordered, her voice sharp. Two security guards moved to her side, their hands also on their weapons. Marcus shook his head. Quickly, "No, you don't understand. It's not something I can just remove here." Rin narrowed her eyes. "So it is hidden in a way that makes it hard to take out." "That sounds like a weapon to me," she said. The guards stepped closer. The crowd was now whispering louder, some even recording the moment with small glowing devices. The human took a step back, his body tense. "Look, I can explain, but not here, not in front of everyone. That is not how security works." Rin said, "You will show it now." Marcus's shoulders sank. He glanced around again, his face turning a shade of red. He opened his mouth to speak, but closed it again, as if searching for the right words. In her mind, Rin ran through the possibilities. It could be a mini plasma pistol, small but able to burn through steel. It could be a foldable blade with a poison edge. Humans had been known to make weapons from parts of their own ships, or even scrap metal. Whatever it was, she would not allow it past her checkpoint. She took a step closer, the metal of her boots clanging softly on the floor. "Do not move," she said, and slowly reached her hand toward the suspicious bulge. Marcus's eyes widened. He took another step back. Wait, please. "You're making a big mistake," the crowd gasped. A tall reptilian trader muttered something in his language. Another alien with long antennae leaned in to get a better view. The tension in the air felt thick. Rin's mind was clear. She would remove the object, secure it, and prevent whatever danger it held. She had done this before, and she would do it again. Marcus seemed ready to run, but the guards were too close. One moved behind him, blocking his escape. The human looked trapped, his breathing faster now. She was close enough to touch the object when Marcus suddenly raised his voice. "It's not what you think," he said, the sound echoing in the checkpoint area. The aliens around them leaned forward, curious. Rin froze for just a moment. The human's eyes locked on hers, pleading for her to understand. But she had a duty. She had to know what this was. Her hand hovered over the spot. The whole crowd, silent except for the hum of the station systems. In that frozen moment, it felt like the entire trade station waited to see what would happen next. The air inside the checkpoint felt heavy as Marcus stood surrounded by alien guards. The glow from the overhead lights seemed too bright, making every eye in the crowd fix on him. Captain Rin's armored hand still hovered near the spot she believed hid a weapon. Her voice steady, but sharp as she gave her command. "Remove it now," she said. Her gaze locked on him without a single blink. Marcus swallowed hard, the movement of his throat easy to see. He shook his head slightly. "I told you it's not a weapon," he said. his tone almost pleading but also embarrassed. The aliens in the crowd murmured in many languages, some laughing quietly, others whispering about human tricks and secret devices. A tall insectoid merchant clicked his mandibles as he told his companion that humans were known to hide explosives in strange places. Rin's patience was thin. She stepped closer, her boots making a dull metal sound on the floor. "If you do not remove it, I will remove it for you," she said, her guards shifting their stance to be ready for a sudden move. Marcus glanced at the two guards beside him, both tall, armored, and holding stun rifles ready to fire. He sighed and raised his hands higher. "You don't want to do this in front of everyone," he said, his face turning red again. "That is for me to decide," Rin answered, without hesitation, her voice loud enough for the crowd to hear. The whispers grew louder. A small floating camera drone zipped closer, its lens glowing as it recorded every angle. A few aliens chuckled, clearly enjoying the drama, but others stayed tense, worried that the human might actually pull out something dangerous. Marcus looked around once more, then took a deep breath. "Listen, I am telling you the truth. This is not an object I can hand to you. It is a part of me," he said. The words made the crowd react with confusion, a few gasps and puzzled looks. Rin narrowed her eyes, her mind racing through her knowledge of human anatomy. "A part of you," she repeated slowly. "Do not lie to me, human. There is no body part that looks like a concealed weapon." Marcus bit his lip, clearly uncomfortable. "That is where you are wrong," he said, his voice dropping lower. "And I really wish you would just let me explain somewhere private." "No," Rin said firmly. "We follow procedure here. No exceptions. The safety of this station comes first." The guards stepped in even closer, their weapons now fully powered, a faint hum coming from the barrels. The crowd shifted back a step, the tension high enough to feel like the air itself was pressing down. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck and muttered something in English too, quiet for anyone to understand. He then straightened, as if making a decision. "You are going to feel very silly in a moment," he said. Rin ignored the comment and reached forward again, this time faster. Marcus jumped back with surprising speed, making the guards tense and nearly fire. The floating camera drone zipped even closer, eager for a better shot. "I am serious," Marcus said, his voice rising. "This is not what you think. You are about to embarrass yourself." Rin tilted her head slightly, her helmet catching the light. "The only embarrassment will be yours if you are hiding a weapon," she replied. The crowd began to chant in a strange mix of languages, some urging Rin to search him, others telling her to stop. A small furry alien even shouted that maybe humans were just built differently, causing a ripple of laughter. Marcus took a step forward now, lowering his voice again so only Rin and the closest guards could hear. "It's part of human biology," he said. "We are born with it. It's normal for my species." Rin stared at him for a long second, her mind not fully accepting the words. Her training told her to suspect everything. "I have read human biology files," she said slowly, "but nothing in them matches what I see now." "That is because your files are wrong," Marcus answered, his lips curling into a small grin despite the situation. The grin annoyed Rin, making her want to push the matter further. She stepped forward until she was within arm's reach again, her voice cold. "Then you will show me right now," Marcus groaned softly, clearly dreading what would happen next. He glanced once more at the camera drone, then at the dozens of alien faces staring at him. "You really want to do this here?" he asked. But it was clear from Rin's eyes that she was not going to back down. A murmur spread through the crowd, the tension mixing with amusement now, some aliens leaning closer, others covering their mouths in anticipation of a scandal. Marcus slowly shook his head and muttered, "Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you." The floating drone moved even closer, the red recording light blinking fast. The crowd silent, except for the hum of the guards' weapons. All eyes locked on Marcus and the strange bulge that had started the entire scene. Rin braced herself for whatever truth was about to be revealed, her mind still convinced it had to be some kind of dangerous device. In that frozen moment, the checkpoint felt like the center of the entire galaxy. Every breath held, every eye unblinking, waiting for the human to make his next move. Marcus stood still, his eyes moving between Rin and the two armed guards beside him. The crowd around the checkpoint waited in total silence. The hum of the station's air systems seemed louder than usual. The floating camera drone hovered so close he could see his reflection in its lens. "I am telling you the truth," Marcus said in a low but firm voice. "This is part of my body. It is not a weapon. It is not dangerous." Rin kept her hand ready, her eyes narrowed under the curve of her silver helmet. "If you are lying, you will regret it," she said. her tone calm but carrying a clear warning. From the back of the crowd, a voice spoke in a language that sounded like bells ringing. An alien translator device in the front repeated the words in basic. Humans are strange. Maybe he speaks the truth. Another alien, tall and thin with green skin, stepped forward slightly and said, I once read an anatomy file about humans. It mentioned something about this. But I thought it was a joke. Rin turned her head slightly toward the speaker. Explain, she ordered. Her voice sharp. The green alien cleared his throat and seemed hesitant. It said humans have certain physical structures that can create shapes under clothing. Shapes that are not weapons, but are natural, he said slowly. The crowd reacted with mixed sounds. Some laughter, some gasps, some even whispering to each other in disbelief. Rin looked back at Marcus, studying his face for any sign of deceit. He stood tall, but his cheeks were slightly red. I told you, he said quietly. It is just me. That is still not enough proof, Rin replied, stepping closer, the silver armor on her boots clinking softly against the metal floor. I will need to confirm it myself. Marcus raised his hands higher, his voice urgent. Please, listen. This will be very embarrassing for both of us if you do this here. There are cultural rules. This is private for humans. The crowd's whispers grew louder. The floating drone shifted angles, capturing the moment from above. Rin's training told her to ignore embarrassment. Safety came first. But a small thought in the back of her mind whispered that she might indeed be walking into a mistake. Still, she could not appear weak in front of so many witnesses. You have 3 choices, she said firmly. 1. You remove it yourself and show me. 2. I remove it for you. Or 3. We detain you for possession of a possible weapon. Marcus looked frustrated, his eyes darting to the crowd again. If I choose the first one, you will see I am telling the truth. But then you will owe me an apology in front of everyone, he said, his voice carrying a hint of challenge. Rin's head ridges shifted slightly, a sign of mild irritation. If you are right, then yes. I will give you an apology, she replied, her voice cold. The guards shifted their stance again, clearly ready for anything. Marcus sighed, took a step back from Rin, and glanced up at the drone. You are going to make me famous for all the wrong reasons, he muttered. A small furry alien near the front giggled, covering its face with tiny paws. Others leaned closer in anticipation. Marcus took a deep breath and pointed to the side of the checkpoint where a small privacy screen stood unused. Can we at least go there? He asked, but Rin shook her head. No, here. Now he closed his eyes for a brief moment, clearly trying to prepare himself, then opened them and said, Fine, but remember, you asked for this with slow, deliberate movement. Marcus adjusted the waistband of his pants just enough for the shape to be clearly seen by those nearest. Several aliens gasped. Others began to laugh openly. Rin froze, her sharp alien eyes instantly realizing what she was looking at was indeed part of his anatomy. Not a weapon at all. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. The green alien from earlier nodded slowly. Yes. That matches the file I read, he said in a matter-of-fact tone. The laughter in the crowd grew louder. The floating drone pulled back to capture the faces of both Marcus and Rin, the embarrassment on her usually calm expression now impossible to hide. Marcus quickly fixed his clothing and stepped back, crossing his arms. Satisfied, he asked, his voice quiet, but carrying the weight of victory. Rin straightened her posture, trying to regain authority. It appears you were correct, she admitted slowly, the words tasting strange in her mouth. A ripple of amusement passed through the gathered aliens, some repeating her words as if they could not believe she said them. Marcus leaned slightly closer to her, his voice just low enough for her to hear. Told you it wasn't a weapon. She turned sharply and waved her hand at the guards. Stand down, she ordered, the hum of their powered weapons fading instantly. As the guards stepped back, the crowd began to disperse, still laughing, still whispering, still recording. Rin could already imagine how many station news feeds would be replaying this moment by the end of the cycle. The floating drone zipped away, clearly satisfied with its recording. Marcus adjusted his jacket and walked toward the exit, but not before giving Rin a small, knowing smile. Her antenna ridges lowered slightly, a sign of embarrassment among her kind. She told herself she had simply done her duty. But deep inside she knew this incident would follow her for a very long time, and somewhere in the station, people were already giving the scene a name. The day the humans Bulge stopped security. The laughter from the checkpoint still echoed in Captain Rin's ears as she walked away. The sound seemed to follow her down the metal corridors of the trade station. Every few steps she caught sight of an alien whispering to another, while trying to hide a grin. She could feel the heat of embarrassment in her face, a rare thing for her kind. Marcus walked beside her, hands in his jacket pockets, his stride casual, clearly enjoying the shift in the situation. "I told you it was nothing dangerous," he said, his tone light but carrying that human smugness she had read about in the cultural files. Rin kept her eyes forward. "It was my duty to check. Any unusual object or shape could be a threat," she replied, her voice controlled, though the edges were tight. They passed a group of traders from a water-dwelling species, their tall, thin bodies shimmering with moisture under the station lights. One of them whispered something, and they all broke into quiet laughter. Marcus tilted his head toward them and raised an eyebrow. "Looks like your station gossip network works fast," he said. Rin ignored him, but inside she knew it was true. In a place where hundreds of species lived side by side, a story like this would spread faster than a ship in hyperspace. She imagined the headlines already. "Security captain mistakes human body for weapon." As they neared the main command lift, a small hover screen floated past them, its display showing a news channel. Rin froze when she saw herself on the screen. The image taken from the camera drone earlier. The caption below read, "Is it a weapon, or just human nature?" Marcus burst out laughing, the sound drawing the attention of passing aliens. "You are now famous," he said, between laughs, "and so am I. Though maybe not for the reason I would have liked." The lift doors opened, and they stepped inside. The hum of the machinery filling the silence. Rin stood stiffly, her hands clasped behind her back. Marcus leaned against the wall with a grin still on his face. "You know," he said, "this could be a learning moment for your people. Not everything strange is dangerous." Rin's eyes flicked to him briefly. "And not everything harmless is safe," she countered, her voice calm again. The lift doors slid open to the upper command level, the wide hall filled with polished floors and bright light panels. As they stepped out, Rin noticed several officers glance their way, then quickly look away. She could almost hear their thoughts. She could almost feel their smirks. Her communicator beeped and a voice came through. "Captain Rin, the commander requests your presence in his office." "Bring the human with you," Marcus smirked. "Sounds important," he said. Rin just walked forward without answering. The commander's office was large, the walls lined with holomaps of trade routes and defensive zones. The commander himself sat behind a curved desk, his armor dark and marked with gold lines of rank. His eyes shifted between Rin and Marcus with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "I have seen the footage," the commander began, his voice deep and steady. "It seems our station has had quite the incident." Rin stood at attention. "Sir, the human displayed an unusual body shape. My training required I investigate. It was a false alarm." The commander's mouth curved slightly. "False alarm or not, the footage has already been viewed by half the station. Other stations are requesting copies, and I suspect it will reach the interstellar news channels within the day." Marcus raised a hand, like a student in class. "Do I get royalties for that?" he asked. The commander gave him a slow look, but did not answer. Rin, the commander, continued, "You will be working with this human for the next cycle. Consider it cultural exchange, and perhaps an opportunity to repair your image." Rin blinked. "Sir, I do not believe that is necessary. It is not a request," the commander replied, his tone ending the discussion. "The human has agreed to assist us in upcoming negotiations with the Athelian traders. Your knowledge of human culture is clearly in need of refinement." Marcus grinned wider. "Guess we are partners now." Rin's antenna ridges shifted in mild frustration, but she bowed her head slightly. "Yes, Commander." When they left the office, Marcus walked a little closer to her. "You know, this might actually be fun," he said. She gave him a sideways glance. "For you, maybe," she answered. They moved through the corridor, passing more aliens who either avoided eye contact or smiled knowingly. Marcus seemed to soak in the attention, while Rin's mind focused on how to prevent any more humiliating misunderstandings. As they approached the docking ring where the negotiations would take place, Marcus slowed his pace. "So these traders we are meeting, have they met humans before?" he asked. Rin shook her head slightly. "No, you will be the first." Marcus's smile turned mischievous. "Then I guess I should be careful not to scare them with any unusual shapes," he said. Rin gave him a warning look, but he just chuckled. They reached the meeting chamber doors, tall and ornate, with patterns carved from rare metals. Rin took a deep breath. She needed this to go smoothly. No more surprises, no more laughter, no more cameras. But somewhere deep inside, she worried that with this human by her side, surprises might be impossible to avoid. And as the doors slid open, the first thing she noticed was the way the Athelian delegation stared at Marcus, their eyes immediately dropping to the same part of his body that had caused all the trouble before. Her heart sank, knowing that once again, the station might be about to witness something unforgettable. The meeting with the Athelian traders had ended in chaos. Rin could still hear their strange musical laughter echoing in her ears as she and Marcus walked back through the wide docking corridors of the station. The traders had barely listened to the trade proposals. Instead, they kept asking Marcus questions about his body, their curiosity completely overwhelming any sense of business. Rin walked fast, her boots striking the floor with sharp metallic sounds. She kept her eyes forward, but could feel Marcus behind her, his pace slower and his voice carrying amusement. "You know, I think they liked me," he said. "They liked you too much," Rin replied without looking at him, her voice tight. "They ignored the main reason we were there. That is not my fault," Marcus answered with a shrug. "You told me I was the first human they had met. It is only natural they would have questions. They did not have to ask them in the middle of a formal negotiation," Rin said, remembering how the Athelian leader had leaned forward with glowing eyes and asked about the exact dimensions of what they called the mysterious human bulge. The entire room had erupted into giggles. Even the normally serious translators had struggled to keep straight faces as they passed a small group of station workers. Rin could hear the whispers again. The incident from the checkpoint was still fresh in everyone's minds, and now the Athelian laughter would only add fuel to the spreading gossip. Marcus seemed immune to the embarrassment, his hands tucked into his pockets, his eyes moving from one alien to another as if he was enjoying the attention. They reached the central hub of the station, where large screens displayed news headlines from around the galaxy. Rin froze when she saw the top story. It was a still image from the Athelian meeting, Marcus smiling while surrounded by the traders. The headline in bold letters read, "Human weapon mystery spreads to new species." Marcus chuckled as soon as he saw it. "I told you I was famous," he said. "This is not good," Rin replied. "The more this spreads, the less anyone will take our negotiations seriously." Before Marcus could answer, a tall alien with golden scales approached, its long tail swaying behind it. "You are the human from the videos," it said in a smooth voice. "I must shake your hand. Your story has brought much joy to my people." Marcus shook the alien's hand with a friendly smile. "Glad I could help," he said. Rin sighed and kept walking, but the alien followed for a few steps, speaking to Marcus in a language she did not understand. Marcus laughed at whatever was said and gave the alien a thumbs up. When they finally reached the quieter halls near the security offices, Rin stopped and turned to face him. "This has to end," she said firmly. "We cannot have every species on the station treating you like some kind of novelty." Marcus leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "I cannot control what they think, Rin. I am just existing, and they are the ones making it weird." "You could at least avoid drawing attention," she said. "That would help." Marcus tilted his head with a half smile. "You mean I should walk around like a robot and avoid talking to anyone if it stops this gossip?" "Yes," Rin replied, though even as she said it, she knew it was impossible. The story had already spread beyond her control. Her communicator beeped again, and she answered it quickly, a voice from the command level saying, "Captain, you and the human are requested for an interview with the station's media representatives. They say it will help manage the public reaction." Rin closed her eyes for a moment. "Understood," she said, ending the call. She looked at Marcus, who raised his eyebrows. "An interview?" he asked. "Yes," she said with reluctance. "Apparently we are to explain the truth to the entire station. This should be fun," Marcus replied with a grin. An hour later they were seated in a bright studio, cameras hovering in the air, lights shining down, the alien host smiling widely as it welcomed them. "Today, we speak with the now famous human and the brave security captain who discovered his unusual nature," the host said, the audience behind the glass panel already chuckling. The questions came quickly, some about trade, others about human culture, but most centered around the same topic. Marcus handled them with charm and humor. Rin kept her answers short and professional, though she could see the amusement in the eyes of everyone present. When the interview ended, the host thanked them and promised the recording would be broadcast to every deck of the station. Rin felt the weight of her reputation sinking lower, while Marcus simply stretched and said, "Well, that was not so bad." As they left the studio, a group of young aliens approached Marcus for pictures. Rin watched in silence as he posed with them, his easy smile making it clear he was adapting to this unwanted fame far better than she was. By the time they reached the docking bay again, Rin had accepted a hard truth. No matter how much she wanted this story to disappear, it was now part of station history, and Marcus was at the center of it. She only hoped that in the coming days, they could turn this strange attention into something useful for their mission. though deep down she feared that, with this human, surprises and laughter were now permanent companions. Asterisk, the station's artificial morning cycle had just begun when Rin's communicator buzzed again, her eyes still heavy from lack of sleep. She answered without much energy, expecting another routine report. Instead, the voice on the other end was from the Diplomatic Council. Polite but urgent, they requested her and Marcus to report immediately to Hull 7. No explanation given. Marcus was already awake when she stepped into the common room, sipping a steaming cup of something that smelled faintly like cinnamon and burnt metal. He looked up with that same easy grin. "Morning, Captain. Or should I say, co-star of last night's broadcast," he said. Rin ignored the jab and simply said, "We have been summoned." He tilted his head. "Summoned? Sounds serious. Are we in trouble, or are they giving me an award?" "Either way," Rin replied. "We will find out in a few minutes." Hall 7 was a large chamber with high ceilings. Banners of multiple species hanging like silent witnesses. In the center sat 3 council members, each from a different world, their expressions unreadable. Rin and Marcus stopped a few meters away. The middle counselor, a tall insectoid with wings folded neatly against its back, spoke first. "Hugh and Marcus, your recent notoriety has attracted interest from beyond the station. A certain high-ranking dignitary wishes to meet you." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Let me guess. They are curious about the same thing everyone else is." The insectoid gave a faint clicking sound. "It is possible, though they claim to have diplomatic matters as well." Rin shifted her weight, already sensing trouble. "Who is this dignitary?" she asked the left counselor. "A pale-skinned being, with eyes like liquid mercury," answered Princess Vela of the Zyrene Concord. "She is scheduled to arrive within 1 standard day. Her request is specific. She wishes for a private audience with the human, with only the captain present as witness." Marcus whistled softly. "Royalty, huh? I suppose I should wear something fancy." Asterisk, this is not a social event, Rin warned. But she knew her words meant little. Marcus always found a way to make light of situations. After the meeting, they were escorted back through the busy corridors. Already, Rin could hear fragments of conversation from passing aliens. Words like princess and human mixing into the air, like rumors carried on a strong wind. Marcus seemed amused, waving at a group of young station workers who giggled and whispered behind their hands. By the time the Zyrene ship arrived, the station's docking bay was lined with curious onlookers. The royal vessel gleamed with a silver sheen that reflected the station lights like liquid moonlight. The air shimmered slightly as the ramp lowered, revealing the tall, slender figure of Princess Vela. Her gown shifting colors like flowing water. Her eyes locked on Marcus the moment she stepped forward. "Human," she said in a voice that was both melodic and commanding. "You intrigued me." Marcus bowed slightly in an exaggerated gesture. "Your Highness, I try my best." Asterisk. Rin stepped between them before things could drift off course. "Princess Vela, I am Captain Rin. I will be present during any discussions." The princess gave a slight nod, though her gaze barely left Marcus. They were escorted into a private chamber filled with soft light and the faint scent of some alien flower. Once seated, the princess leaned forward, her long fingers resting on the table. "I have heard many things about humans, but your case is unique. The Zyrene Concord wishes to invite you as an honored guest to our capital. We believe you could be a symbol of interspecies goodwill." Marcus blinked. "So basically, a goodwill ambassador." "Yes," she said. "Though it may also involve ceremonial appearances, cultural exchanges, and perhaps more personal interactions." Rin could see the gleam in Marcus's eye, and she knew he was already thinking of a dozen jokes. "Your Highness," she said firmly, "while we appreciate the offer, Marcus is part of an active mission. Taking him away could disrupt important operations." The princess tilted her head gracefully. "And yet, the value of such a symbol might outweigh routine duties. The choice, of course, lies with him." Marcus looked between them, clearly enjoying the attention. "Well, I do like the idea of being called Your Excellency." For a while, Rin shot him a warning glance, but the princess smiled faintly. "Think on it, human Marcus. Our ship will remain here for 2 days. I expect your answer before we depart." When they left the chamber, Rin walked quickly, her jaw tight. "You are not seriously considering this?" she said. "I might," Marcus replied. "I mean, it is not every day you get invited by alien royalty. Plus, it could open doors for our mission in ways you have not thought of." "It could also make things far worse," Rin said. "Once you are seen in their capital, the attention will multiply tenfold." They reached the observation deck, where the princess's ship gleamed against the darkness of space. Marcus leaned on the railing, watching it. "Sometimes attention is not a bad thing, Rin. Sometimes it is leverage. She stared at him, realizing that beneath his joking nature, Marcus had already begun calculating the possibilities. And that worried her even more than the princess's interest. As the artificial night cycle began to dim the station lights, Rin knew one thing for certain: the days ahead would test her patience, her mission, and perhaps even her control over the unpredictable human who had somehow turned a minor security incident into a galaxy-wide spectacle. And, somewhere deep inside, she suspected this was only the beginning of an even stranger chapter. The spaceport was busy with travelers from many worlds, moving in every direction under the tall steel arches of the docking bay roof. Lights flickered along the walls as ships powered their engines, preparing for departure. Captain Rin walked beside Commander Hale, his mind still replaying the strange events of the last day. They had uncovered a hidden plot, stopped an armed smuggler, and somehow all of it had started because a certain alien officer thought Hale's belt pouch was a deadly weapon. Zara trailed a few steps behind her cheeks, still glowing a faint purple shade. She had learned a great deal about human anatomy, but the embarrassment from her first reaction had not yet faded. Every time she looked at Hale, she remembered the moment. She reached for her communicator, ready to call security, only to discover the truth was far less dangerous. Still, the misunderstanding had brought them together as a team, and even Hale had to admit it was one of the funniest moments he had ever experienced in deep space services. They moved toward the shuttle gate. An old alien merchant waved at them from a side corridor. He was the same trader who had first spread the rumor of a human carrying a concealed plasma pistol in his uniform. Zara froze, unsure if she should say something. Hale simply smiled and walked up to the merchant. With a grin, he pulled a small pouch from his belt, holding it out for the alien to see. Inside were nothing more than navigation chips and a folded snack wrapper. The merchant tilted his head, confused, before breaking into laughter that echoed through the corridor. Zara covered her face with her hands, while Rin shook his head in disbelief. Later, they boarded the shuttle bound for their ship. The horizon speared through the large windows. The blue glow of the station lights faded as they rose into the star-filled black. Rin took a seat beside the window, Hale across from him, and Zara in the corner, trying not to make eye contact with anyone. A faint vibration hummed through the cabin as the shuttle engines fired. In the silence that followed, Hale finally spoke, his voice calm, but carrying the weight of a lesson. Sometimes the smallest misunderstandings can lead to the biggest trouble. Zara nodded, not meeting his eyes, but she smiled just a little. The flight back was short, but the air was thick with unspoken thoughts. Zara kept replaying the moment she realized her mistake, remembering how her pulse had raced, how her training had urged her to act, and how quickly the situation had turned from dangerous to ridiculous. She had always prided herself on being careful, but this time, her quick judgment had caused more trouble than it solved, and yet she also knew they had discovered the smugglers' plot only because they had been in the right place at the right time, drawn together by the misunderstanding, perhaps. The universe had a strange sense of humor when they arrived at the Horizon Sphere. The crew welcomed them back with cheers. The news of their mission had already spread, and the smuggler was now in the custody of station security. But more than that, the story of Zara's false alarm had already begun to circulate, though in most versions the details had grown even more absurd. Some claimed she had mistaken a medical scanner for a plasma grenade, others said Hale had been carrying a secret alien egg. Hale himself added fuel to the fire by refusing to correct anyone and simply smiling whenever the subject came up. That night, in the crew lounge, Rin, Hal, and Zara sat together, sharing a quiet meal. The hum of the ship was steady, a reminder they were once again moving toward their next mission. Zara finally spoke, her voice quiet but clear. "Thank you both for not making this worse than it could have been." Hale raised an eyebrow. "Worse?" Zara nodded. "You could have told everyone the exact truth and made me look foolish, but you didn't." Hale leaned back in his chair, his expression serious for a moment. "We're a crew, we watch each other's backs, even when mistakes happen." Then he smiled again. "Besides, the look on your face was worth keeping the story alive." They all laughed together, the tension of the past day fading into the warmth of shared trust. Outside the lounge window, the stars stretched endlessly ahead, a promise of new journeys and more strange encounters. Zara felt lighter than she had in days, knowing that while her mistake would probably be remembered forever, it would be remembered with humor, not shame. The Horizon Spear continued on its path, cutting through the darkness of space. Somewhere out there another mission awaited. And perhaps somewhere another misunderstanding would lead to danger, laughter, and maybe even a victory. No one had seen coming in the quiet after their laughter. Zara caught Hale's eye, and for the first time since it happened, she laughed without holding back. The misunderstanding had changed how she saw humans forever, and maybe, just maybe, she was glad it had happened.